Many of you probably seen by now the in Idaho, the autistic boy, 17 years old, cerebral palsy. He was intoxicated, like he was falling down drunk in his front yard. He was in a chain link fence. Neighbor calls. Kid had a knife, but he was like on the ground flailing. Um, so four cops got there. Went on the outside of the fence in his yard. He stands up with the knife. There's a chain link fence about waist to chest high, and it was basically like a firing squad. So how do we get here? How do we get here? This is just my opinion, but you can look back in history. Mid-century Europe is probably the sharpest example, in my opinion, where there's never a shortage of human beings to carry out the uh, dark, evil will of the banking masters, our banking puppet masters, who control our money. And they control Washington D.C. They control the Pentagon. Basically, they dictate what's going on. Again, my opinion filters through the coffee filter of Congress, Senate, and then all the laws and the judicial branch, and everything is at the will of these roundtables that kind of concoct these things. Social engineering is one, but I kind of want to walk through this and just this is my perspective. So in 1969, we had the moon landing where the bouncy castle.
Hippity hoppity, hippity hoppity, hippity hopping over hill and dale.
The bouncy bounce commercial, um, and then like a TV preacher, they inspired us from the moon with these words, one small step and all that, and people were mesmerized. And then you had this giant NASA budget, which today we have the surveillance state. Then in 19, so that's 1969. 1971, President Nixon began the war on drugs. He said it was a public enemy number one in 1971. Richard Nixon. There's no war on drugs. Is a bag of weed gonna like how you gonna war? It's a war on people. Everybody knows that. It's just a play on words because they are not permitted. They, the government, are not permitted to declare war within the United States. So they get around to like war on drugs, war on terror, like the war on rocking chairs. Um, it's just first grade level stuff. Okay, so I mean, bottom line is Roe v. Wade, my body, my choice. If I want to do drugs, why is it anybody's business? Do I not own this? Can I not do what I want with my own body? So I don't own my body. I guess with the issuance of social security numbers, like a barcode, I'm probably the property of the banking masters who we're indebted to because I guess we spend too much money. It's the people behind the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a private bank. It is not a government entity. When you send them your money, you don't get a canceled check back or whatever you call it with the signature on back, or you don't get anything. Those are private banking families that a lot of them live in Europe. Europe is kind of a big center for that. It's international bankers. They have no allegiance to us. They just give us these Chinese-made plastic flags to wave when we're at football games, like a bunch of idiots. They keep us satisfied, and they give us all these psyops, and social media is just kind of like a pacifier in a blankie for us adults, while they loot the nation. In the 1970s, just an average Joe working at a gas station as a mechanic could have a wife at home and have a house and kids. Now, that's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. In the 1960s, they started the women's liberation movement, which sort of morphed into if you don't get out there and work, females, you are a traitor, you're a cave woman, and you're betraying the movement.
You can take Salem out of the country, but you can't take the country out of Salem.
So there was all this pressure, so all these families broke up. Fast forward to today, that was through the 70s, 1970s, and into the 80s was this whole, divorce and two working people. Now two people work for less than one. So, but they pitched it as some altruistic, you can do it, to females, and it's a con. I mean, obviously, I'm not. Nobody should be told what to do. If a man wants to stay home and the woman works, whatever. It's nobody's business. But they push down these social agendas down the pipeline, infiltrate the media with it, and when they sold two working parents to the masses, it was like, you're gonna be so rich, you're gonna have vacations, you're gonna have an extra house, there'll be all this money, because people are just thinking, okay, do the math, double the income we're making now, okay, that sounds pretty good. Didn't turn out that way. They are keeping the money, and they are stealing from us. 1971 is when President Nixon, took us off the gold standard. Okay, our currency used to be backed by gold. Like, we'll print so many dollars and we have the gold. Like, it's backed, supposedly. It was. And then he's like, no, we're going to take it off of there. You're going to see the middle class is going to explode again, lying with the sales pitch. And since the 70s, been like this for the middle class in the United States of America. Absolute steady decline. This is just theft. This is theft. Okay, so the middle class has been shrinking. Okay, so now we're back at it in 1980s, 1990s with Nancy Reagan. She's going to revitalize, just say no, the war on people, disguised as war on drugs. It's a transference of power to the government under the guise of safety and protection, serve and protect. So in 1992, you had the Ruby Ridge situation in northern Idaho, just kind of a prepper family out there, and they out in the middle of nowhere. And then it seems like he was framed by the government, like, hey, modify this shotgun barrel shorter than legal length. So that's how they wrapped him up. This is what I understand. They sent him a letter in the mail, like, come here by this date, and they didn't send it. They said they sent it. Something like this. It was cooked up. So I think a lot of people know what happened to his wife, his son, their dog. We're done. There was also some agent that got, he was no longer with the living in the situation. And this is when Bill Clinton, that was George W. Bush, 1992. Bill Clinton is right around the time when Bill Clinton came in. So he comes in, they're talking about domestic terrorism, dissidents is really what they're talking about. If you're dissatisfied with what's happening, you're a terrorist. So he comes in there with that. And then so that was, they go after Waco, and we all saw that. It was, not good to watch, considering what was happening with the fire. That was a big problem for the Clinton administration. What do you do about it? They're losing the PR battle. That was 1993. 1995, cue Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma City bombing. They use that because they got to gaslight. They got to be the ones that's claiming that the population is the threat. They have to have that. So then they rearranged the White House, pushed out where people could come. It's like the king with the moat and all this separation and the screwing over of the tax cattle. So that's what you had. And then 1995, they recaptured the narrative. And 9/11, 2001, trauma-based mind control. People are traumatized in the United States of America. They're not thinking clearly. 9/11 was, I think, sort of the kickoff to this paranoia, doomsday, unhealthy psyops. To control the population, Patriot Act is kind of like a new constitution. And again, huge transference of power from us to the government. Okay, so here's the deal with trauma. Okay. Kidneys. On top of the kidneys, adrenal glands pushes out adrenaline and cortisol. And if that keeps pumping and pumping and pumping, and people don't know up from down, they're not thinking clearly. Look what's going on with people. You can just go on YouTube and see people are like melting. It's just this constant psyops, constant uncertainty, financial immobility, financial insecurity. We've been looted. Now what happens along the way? Well, that's when the police state that we live in now starts to ramp it up. It's like an armed robbery. They ramp up the violence, keep your mouth shut as we loot you and pick your pocket. That's what their job is, because you can see the trend of us having less money and the trend of the police having more disdain for us. Like they're taking the leashes off their dogs. These are people that want to harm people. They like it. It's fun for them. Makes them feel powerful. So, and then they train them at the country that shall not be named overseas, and all these like sort of hybrid military police sort of morphing into the standing army. Even they wear blue instead of green or camo. It's just sleight of hand, just like the war on people, war on drugs, war on terror, war on people. But these are the scams, and this is what's happening, and we're broke, and they haven't invested anything into this country. Look at China. Look at China's infrastructure. They've actually taken their money and they invest it. We're just straight up being looted, and there's nothing really we can do about it. So what we're left is mass incarceration, basically stagnant and unlivable wages, horrible health, horrible medical system, horrible insurance system, a broken down infrastructure. We have a fiat currency. It's worthless. Our currency it's a fiat currency, like a third world country. That's what's happening in this country. I can't believe more people aren't seeing what's happening. That's the scary part for me, like a panic. Like, can you not see what's happening? People are just living like, okay, yeah, everything's going to be fine in 10 years. It's crazy.
Use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control.
Welcome to The Time Machine. We are going to take you back, first to the year 1939, when Charlie Chaplin and his evil Nazi regime enslaved Europe and tried to take over the world. But then an even greater force emerged, the Un, and the Un-Nazi'd the world forever.